Okay, so today we're going to be talking to my mom, Pat. Hello.
Hello.
We're going to talk about her time in the Peace Corps in the city of Bintulu. So there's a little map down here. We can see where it is. And we're going to start. We have a whole series of slides that we've taken from, I guess you had a slide machine that you took around with you?
No, I had a camera that I took the slide.
Camera that you took slides with. Okay.
Yes.
Then you took pictures all throughout your time. So what years were you there?
In Bintulu, we arrived about May of 65
Okay.
and left the end of January in 67.
And at that point, Malaysia was just very recently independent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. It had previously been part of the British Commonwealth. And it joined Confederation with Malaya and Singapore.
So Malaya being the peninsular part.
Peninsula.
So
and Sarawak was part of Borneo. The other part is Brunei and Indonesia.
So the two states that are currently parts of Malaysia are Sarawak, which is sort of in the southwest. That's correct. And then Sabah, which is
yes.
And Bintulu is sort of like right in the middle of the Sarawak part, a little bit south of Mir.
Yes.
And Brunei. Okay. So we have a picture here of the Bintulu airport. So this is what you flew into, is that right?
That's correct. It was quite an experience. The runway was made of sand because it was right near the ocean. So anytime the heavy rains came, you could not fly in and out the airport. So we would watch as the plane flew over and just kept going. So we knew no mail that day. The only other way in and out was by the river from the ocean. We were very close to the
we have a picture of you on the river in a few slides. So I'll just point out that for the people that are maybe watching this on YouTube in the future, we're also streaming this right now live, and so there will be people that we'll be talking to. I'll say hello to everyone right now. Let me say
hello. I'm new to this. He knows what to do.
I hopefully know what I'm doing at this stage. Okay, so this is the Bintulu airport, but let's take a look at the other Peace Corps volunteers. So here's a picture of the four of you. These were the four Peace Corps volunteers that were stationed
in Bintulu. We all had our separate areas to work upriver, but we collaborated for an area to make projects. We worked out of the same agricultural department.
This is you right here in the pink.
Right.
And do you tell us who the other people were?
That's Glenn Smith. He was from Arkansas. Stan Foster was from Nebraska. And Joan Temple was from Missouri.
And where did you grow up?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Outskirts of Louisville.
Yes. Most of the volunteers in our group, this particular, was called a rural community development program, and 4-H club formation. Most of the volunteers in that group were from the general Midwest and South.
So can you tell me what made you want to join the Peace Corps?
There were a couple of things involved. I always wanted to see more of the world. I had pen pals in various states or countries that I wrote to, and I heard about the Peace Corps. In fact, my mother pointed it out to me, which kind of still to this day amazes me. And of course, part of it was, John F. Kennedy and his admonition to think not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. But it was a way to do something I didn't know once I got out of college exactly what I was going to do. I did not want to go to more school at that time. And I would have had to do that because I had a major in psychology and couldn't do much with it.
Okay, so before you joined the Peace Corps, you had to do some training, is that correct?
Yes. We first met in San Francisco and flew on a charter plane to Hilo, which is in Hawaii, on the Big Island. I think we had a stopover in Honolulu, but we didn't do anything there. We fueled probably. And we spent 3 months in Hilo in training. The group was split. It was Malaysia 9 was the name of the group. We had some health workers, nurses, and rural health people that were in the group. Some of them, the nurses primarily, were in Hilo itself. I forget what building they were in. But the rest of us were in what was an old library, an old school. And the women were in the library. There were not as many women in the group as there were men.
And most of your training was for what you were going to do for it. I know there was language training. What else were you?
We had language, we had history of the area, learning the culture, learning about food. One of the first things they did was they made sure every day we had a lot of activity, physical activity, so that we were very hungry when it was time to eat. And then they would give us chopsticks to eat with, and none of us knew anything about chopsticks.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, we were hungry, so we learned.
Yeah, I remember being forced to learn how to use chopsticks not when I went to trial by fire.
So we learned that. We interacted with the community because we did some projects. Although we were learning Malay, we also had classes for local people who wanted to learn more English. They could speak English. A lot of it was what they called pidgin English, because the people had come from many different places to Hawaii. And Hawaii had not been a state for that long.
This was 1965, right?
Mm-hmm. And we were warned very early on to refer to the 48 land states as the mainland, not as the U.S., because Hawaii was part of the U.S. and the people were very proud of that and were upset if you didn't include them.
Cool. Okay, so let's continue on. So we have another picture of the four of you. This is the four of you.
That's the office we worked out of when we were in town. I'm not sure the proportion of time we spent in town, but maybe a couple of weeks out of each month. It depended on one thing, on how much money there still was in the budget for fuel to get us upriver. And if we ran out of that, we had to find a way upriver, either by somebody who happened to be paddling up that way or with his motorboat going that way, or on one of the, oh really?
Yeah.
Or one of the Chinese launches.
Yeah, so I think the next slide is actually a water taxi, is that right? So this is how one of the ways you get around.
Yeah, I think this was in a different area, but it's similar to the boats that we were on. This one is a little smaller than the one we had. We did have a boat that was for the agriculture department, that we had a driver that would drive us up and drop us each off at our first stop, and then we had to find our way to get to the next stop after he left and took the next person to their place.
I see. Also note that if anyone wants to ask questions, and feel free, and we will try to work them in as we go along. Just a lot of pillows. Okay, so yeah, so this is you on a water taxi, not in the Bintulu area.
No, we were actually traveling at that time to see a different part of the country. This was on the Rajang.
Looks like you're sort of traveling in style. It's a nice dress you have on.
Well, no, you wore what you had that was cool. Yeah. You will note the white suitcase up there. That is my suitcase I still have. It has been around the world.
Yeah, I recognize that suitcase, that's for sure. Okay. Oops, I went too far. So here we have one of the 4-H clubs that I think you worked with. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about who these people are and what exactly you did with them and what you taught them.
Okay. When we first arrived, we were taken by other people up and down the river to the various longhouses. Each longhouse is a community in and of itself. And introduced to the people and got to know the head person, the Tuairuma.
Is this the head person here?
No,
okay.
She's one of the 4-H members. Okay. The head person is not in this picture.
I see.
It was a man. Saban was his name, because it was called Ruma Saban at that time. named their houses after whoever was leader at the time. So you can't just remember the name of the longhouse. You got to know its river.
I see.
Because that's how people refer to it in an ongoing manner. But we would have to talk to the people of the community to tell them what we could help them do and find out what they were interested in. We were trained that you have to make sure the community wants to do a project or it will not succeed. It has to be something that they want to do. The lady over on the right in the picture was the leader of this group. She is the person I stayed with when I visited the longhouse. 2 of her children are in this picture. She has another son who's not. He's much younger.
So how many families lived in a single longhouse? I guess we'll talk a little bit more about the longhouse.
It depended on how large the longhouse was. Some were like maybe, they would call them doors. Some were maybe only 8 doors. Others could be up to 30 or more in some places. Probably the ones I went to, I think 15 and 20 families.
So when you arrived, did you have difficulty like adapting to the climate? Did you have?
Well, that was part where Hawaii helped,
Okay.
because Hawaii had the heat and the humidity at times, and that helped us a lot. Especially we did have a 2-week period. We went down into Waipio Valley in Hawaii, and it was to mimic the area we were going to. We lived in a fake longhouse, and they also had houses that looked like Thai longhouses because they came there too. But yes, it was a little difficult. We learned that we always had to have water ready to drink.
Yep.
And
you have to boil your water, is that right?
Oh, yes. You had to boil your water for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And we carried our water with us. We made a supply of water to take trips. If we were drinking something in the longhouse, we could drink hot tea if we made sure that they boiled it very well.
Okay. Let's see. I think we have some more pictures of various. So here's you in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the leaders, I think, right?
Yes, we had the leaders of the club. We invited them to come to Bintulu from upriver for a special program. We did some exhibits of some of their projects, and we arranged some interesting activities for them while they were there.
I noticed that they're almost all wearing like Western style clothes. Was that very common?
When they went to town, sort of, yes. And the people in the very front were part of the agricultural department, and there was a few others. The guy way over on the left is the man farthest to the left was the department head at that time.
So I'm being told that it's a little cut off. Let me see if I can fix it just a little bit.
Oh, the picture.
Yeah. Well, now it's.
Oh, yeah. That's as many people as.
Yeah, that's it. So we'll just shrink this map down a little bit. Oh, or just. Well, there we go.
So some of the people in this picture are workers from the agricultural department. The rest are leaders who came down from leaders of the longhouses, not necessarily the 4-H club leaders.
Okay. Let's see. We have one more picture. These are the same leader group. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And
we took them to see some of the things around the town. One of the industries, the primary industry around the town, was a sawmill.
So they would cut logs and float them downriver?
Oh, yeah.
Then they chop them up in the sawmill and export them.
Yes, and sometimes it did make traveling up and down the river interesting. Yeah.
So let's continue onwards. Oh, this is, I think, for all the GeoGuessr players that are ever stuck on the road between Bintulu and Miri, this is what that road looked like in 1965. Is that right?
Yes, they were just starting to build it. There were no roads really in and out of Bintulu. The nearest thing to a road would have been down to the seacoast,
Yeah.
but that was sand. It wasn't paved or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no road through the town.
Yeah, all transportation was done on the rivers. Is that right?
Yes. Except for the planes that came in and out. Not every town had an airport.
Yeah, that's true. And your airport wasn't much. It was a spit of sand.
No, we sat there a few times with our planes delayed a day or two.
And here's a picture of Bintulu from the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the river going
Yep.
down, and here's the city itself.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone will recognize the layout of
And now where you have the arrow at the moment, that is where it's really grown up.
Yeah, the city it's like a modern city nowadays.
Oh, it is. It is. And it's nothing like the beautiful, quiet little beach that we enjoyed.
Yeah, we'll have some pictures of what the town looked like, so we'll show them in a little bit. Okay, let's continue. What's next? Okay, so here's where you lived. You lived out over here, is that right?
Yes, mine was the last house. I shared it with Joan.
She was the other woman in the...
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was a government barracks. These are all government barracks here for the government workers stationed in this town. People were moved from place to place for their jobs. We had various people come in and out to work in our agricultural department. Sometimes they asked for a transfer, sometimes the department just transferred them. And the barracks next to the house there.
This one.
Yes, that was where the two guys I was stationed with lived. Glenn and Stan.
Okay. And we have some pictures from inside in a little bit. Okay, and right behind here, this is the jungle.
Yeah.
You were right up next to the jungle.
Oh, yes.
And was it loud at night? Jungle?
I don't remember being loud.
Oh, okay.
I remember that you could hear the waves coming up the river from the ocean. That's what you'd hear. I didn't really hear
the ocean's just right over here.
Else
just
out
out
the road there, but
yeah.
it's it comes up and you could hear came into the river, so it would lap.
Okay.
And an interesting thing about the river was that it could change course during the seasons. Whereas monsoon season, of course, it was all going out toward the sea. During the dry season, if they really didn't get any rain, the salt water from the ocean could reach quite far up the river. And that was a real problem for people who depended on the river water for plants or their drinking water or anything else.
Okay, so let's take some more looks at what these houses look like. So here's your close-up of your house.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your bicycle. Yep. And people from that have played a lot of or seen a lot of pictures will notice that just like other places, houses are raised. So tell us a little bit about, well, we'll see in a little bit later why exactly these houses were raised. But tell me a little bit about the construction of these houses.
Well, these were government houses, so they're different than what you would see in a person's home or the longhouse. The floors, they did have gaps, as I recall, but not quite the same as in a longhouse. There were no screens.
The windows.
On the windows, except I think the bedroom had screens.
Did you have mosquito netting?
Yes. I do think the bedroom had screens now that I recall. But
it's like Germany, modern day Germany. They haven't invented screens.
But yeah, just that part. Yeah. So, and we had one big fan in the living room. It would be called the living room. It was actually quite a spacious house, probably intended for a whole family.
I see.
The country had to provide housing for the volunteers, housing sort, and this is what.
That's pretty nice of them. So how hot was it on a normal day?
Probably in the 90s.
90s.
Everything was centigrade, so and after a while you don't pay attention to.
Not 90s centigrade.
No, 90 Fahrenheit. But I mean, when you listen to Voice of America or something, the radio station that we could understand, it was usually a centigrade.
It's 35 or so or something.
But
and it didn't vary. It didn't vary throughout the year, right?
It got cooler during the monsoon season. Oh yeah, and you could feel that.
Okay.
And it cooled off at night, and sometimes felt even cooler because it's so damp, so humid. Humidity was very high.
I see. Yeah, I imagine why. Okay, and this is inside. This is your kitchen area.
This is our kitchen.
Here's your little stove over here
Yes, it
where
is.
you boiled your water.
Oh, yes.
Every day, boil water.
Well, every few days we, put it into bottles to cool it off.
Yeah.
The electric skillet you see there was not a common thing. It belonged to another person that loaned it to us.
Yep. And here's a sink here. So you had running water?
We did. In the house we had running water.
Okay. I imagine that wasn't common in most of the area that.
Right. Yeah.
And this is the rest of the kitchen. So tell us about like what was your daily like what would you eat on a daily meal?
We eat rice.
Rice.
Just about every meal. Breakfast, I don't really remember what I ate for breakfast. I think we found some kind of bread of some sort or cake or something.
Okay.
But certainly for lunch and for dinner, rice. When we would travel upriver, we would take cans of sardines or corned beef. Those were the things that for protein that we would take up with us. The longhouse people always had the vegetables. They foraged.
What did they forage for? Squashes?
No, they didn't have that before. You had to grow those.
Okay.
But mostly leaves, ferns, bamboo shoots, chankomanas they had. It was sort of like a spinach kind of thing.
People are asking if this is Milo.
Yes, it is.
Tell everyone what Milo is.
It's sort of like a chocolate drink. It was our thing. The funny thing was the volunteer from Nebraska told us that Milo grain was raised there. So I don't know if that was the grain this came from or something different, but it was just kind of funny.
Yeah.
But that was our chocolate, so to speak.
Okay. What was your favorite food while you were there?
My favorite food would have been the vegetables, I guess. Fresh fish.
Fresh fish. Any specific vegetable? That one that you maybe didn't eat much when you got back?
One that I didn't eat much when I got back. Well, I don't know that I've had chankomanas since I got back.
What's chankomanas?
It's sort of like a spinach kind of thing.
Okay.
I guess spinach is the closest to it, but I haven't had the fern things, the fern tops, I think.
Okay. Okay.
And bamboo shoots have only been canned. I haven't found fresh ones.
Yeah. I know that. I've only had canned bamboo shoots. Maybe at one point I had fresh bamboo shoots. Otherwise, here just can't. Right. Okay, let's continue onwards. So we're just talking about vegetables. Here are some vegetables. This is a vegetable market. I think maybe in Kuching, so not in the Bintulu area. Did travel a little bit.
Yeah, so they would have more variety at a time than what we would have. But long beans were a big thing.
Did you see these down here? Yeah.
The green beans, we ate those a lot.
And cucumbers?
Cucumbers we ate. And
it just looks like bok choy here. Something of that.
Yeah, something of that nature. We did eat that, yes. And the eggplant you'll see over there, we did eat that too. Okay. And a lot of local leaf kind of things.
Yeah, whatever they knew what was edible in the jungle. Millennia of expertise teaching. So here's another picture of I think the same fruit market with a bunch of chili powders. Is chili very common among the people cook with it?
Oh yes, especially the Malays and the Indians. Now they were the ones that used more of the chilies. The Ebons did not use as much.
So so the people that you were with were the Ebon. That was the main.
That's where we worked. Yes, those were the. But in the town we had Chinese people, we had Malays, and we had Indian people, and we had some British expats as well.
Yep. And this is ginger up here. That was also very common.
Yes, a lot of ginger.
Okay. These look like some gourds and maybe okra. I can't really tell.
I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. These are the long beans you were talking about. Very, very common. Okay. I think we have one more, the fruit. So talk a little bit about what fruits you had available to you.
Well, we had bananas were the big thing.
Yeah, we have a picture of bananas.
It was very hard for me to eat a banana after I got home because they just did not have any flavor. In Sarawak, they had bananas with a lot of different flavors and a lot of different sizes. So we ate bananas. They had a type of orange. They call it something different. And then you had these. We had jackfruit and we had durian. Jackfruit, I think, is actually the fruit that the juicy fruit gum flavor comes from. It's very, very sweet.
I bought a jackfruit here in Madison.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
Cost $30.
Oh my!
It's 10 pounds.
Take a lot of people to eat one of those, though.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty big. So you think these are jackfruit, not durian, but you're not sure.
I think so.
Okay. And then, do you know what these are in the back?
No, I don't. If I knew, I'd forgotten.
Bananas. Oh, we'll get. I think we have a banana picture in a little bit. This is the rainy season that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So you see now definitely why everything. So how did you get around in the rainy season? You just walked in the rain?
Yeah.
In the mud?
Yeah, I had to get into my house, and believe me, I was a little terrified to walk from the road. Sometimes the road was under too.
Yeah.
I was very fearful there was a snake in there somewhere.
Oh, did you have a? Was that a concern? Snakes?
Oh,
snake
yes,
bites?
It definitely was. And I had one in my house one time. I didn't realize it was a snake.
I haven't heard this story.
I thought it was a belt. I dropped it. I was moved toward it. I was going to pick it up, and all of a sudden the thing moved, and I started screaming for the guys across the way to please come help me. And one of the local guys came from the barracks, and with his parang, he slashed it apart.
Okay, yeah, the parang is a knife.
Knife, yeah.
Yeah, if we weren't doing this in Wisconsin, we were doing this in New Jersey. I could show you people some of the knives and the other things, or the stuff that you have in there. But unfortunately, we just have the picture. Okay.
So anyway, one of the things about the rain and the flooding, it was like this just before we were leaving. A couple months before it was time for us to leave, one of our members, Glenn, was involved in he was taking pictures at a cockfight, and he got too close and got spurred. So he had a serious injury from that. And he was taken off to Kuching for the hospital, and from there he eventually was sent home. He was okay. Yeah. He was good enough that later they drafted him for the army.
And
so
you've kept in touch with Glenn and Stan throughout the years,
yes,
right?
neither one is still alive now, but I did through the years, and I have contact with their children.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we were trying to pack up our belongings to send them home. We were each given a certain amount poundage that we could pack up. We got big wooden crates from the local merchants, and it was very hard to pack things because if we washed anything, we couldn't get it dry because it kept raining. So we were ironing things to put in to back up to come, even for our trip, to put in our suitcase. But that was our worst experience with the rains.
I know after you left Bintulu, you did a lot of traveling around the world, but we're not going to have time really probably to go through all those. Maybe another year when you come visit. Yeah. So I think behind the house, this is a river.
That's the river.
That's the river, and the ocean is out over here towards.
Yes.
And this is getting clean.
That's upriver.
Yep.
One of the long-houses. That's how you clean yourself.
You and you're about 20 years younger than I am now.
Yeah, not quite.
Yeah. So yeah, this is how you bathed, and it's how you cooled off, I think, also.
Yes, right? Yes. Sometimes you do it as much to cool off as to bathe.
Okay, let's continue. Okay, so this is your, I think we're jumping to the end, but this just on the topic of food. This is a farewell meal, I think, when you were leaving.
That was when I was getting ready to leave.
So tell us who this woman was.
This is a family I stayed with each time I went to this longhouse. She is the mother of the family. She was the 4-H club leader. And she was also like my mother away from home. She just is really protective of me and trying to tell me what to do and don't go here and don't do that. And this will work and that won't work, kind of thing. And to show me how to do things that they did.
And you've kept in
the,
touch with her and her children, is that right?
well, they're the only people who are still alive of her family are the oldest son,
It's over here, I think, right?
yes, and this youngest son down in the front here. You can't
Yeah,
see his
see the back of
face.
his head.
And I'll tell you an interesting story about him in a minute.
Okay.
And the daughter, she many years later found me. I lost contact with her. We wrote back and forth for years. And somehow she was moving all around the place and I was moving and we lost contact. But she found me through the internet.
Amazing thing, that internet.
Yeah, and she contacted me, and eventually when they were actually taking a trip across Canada. She married an Australian guy and was living in Australia at that time. And they were traveling across Canada, but they came down to visit me.
Yeah, I think there's, I don't have the picture on this set, but somewhere there's a picture of you with her in your house in New Jersey.
Yeah, that was really very emotional.
So
but these are other members of the 4-H club.
This is her husband, and these are mostly kids.
Well, they were the members of the 4-H club are kids.
These are kids from but they all live in the same house. Then
no, they're in the same longhouse, not in the same.
Okay.
This was the people, the family lived in this. The ones.
Okay, and then in these jars in the back, what are in here?
Some of them had rice. Some of them had tuak, the rice wine that they brewed, and I'm not sure whatever else. They were jugs that were passed down from one generation to the other. So they're heirlooms. Really. Yeah. I have a blanket, an Iban blanket that I bought that this lady made.
How many families were in the Bintulu longhouse?
I'd say around 15 to 20. I'm not
15
really
to 20
sure.
families. Okay.
I'm not really sure.
Okay. So we didn't talk about it, but what was so this is a feast. So what were they feeding?
Well, I'm sure they killed a chicken because that was a big thing.
Okay.
That was for a festive meal. And they used the whole chicken.
Oh yeah.
The whole chicken. They chop it up into like inch-long pieces or something like that. Cook it. And I'm not sure what vegetables. I can't picture, but we had some vegetables and rice.
Right, always rice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they probably were, I'm guessing, there on the tray with some of their rice wine, because that was one of the things that they did for hospitality.
This is rice wine?
Might be.
Okay. Okay. Let's see, what else? What do you have next? This is them creating rice flour in the longhouse. Is that right?
Yes.
So
pounding the rice to make flour to make a cake or something.
So
not a cake like you and I would make, but they were very tasty.
Like rice cakes we get from the store.
No, not like that. They were very tasty.
Were they sweetened at all?
Yes.
What did they sweeten it with?
They had sugar.
They had sugar? Okay. Oops.
Use a lot of it.
I don't know why this. Well.
Whatever.
Yep. So this is okay. We're back now. We're back in the city. We're out of the longhouse, and
the town. It was a town then.
Yeah,
the city. It's a city now, but it was a town.
This is the one place for visitors, and I don't know.
This is the Sky Hotel. Anybody that wasn't staying with one of us volunteers would stay in this Sky Hotel. Next door to that is the Sky Theater.
Here.
Yep.
They have movies?
They had movies.
Oh,
and
what kind of movies did you see?
Well, they were foreign things, of course. Once in a while they'd have an English thing. But it was a totally different experience. I mean, the people would sit in there and laugh and carry on and cheer when the good guy was winning and boo when he was losing. It was quite an experience.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Okay. And the cars were not very common.
No. He probably had one of the three, I think there were 3 or 4 cars in town.
Yeah. Maybe
5 counting the Jeep that the police had.
Okay, so we're going to have some more street scenes here. I don't know why it...
Oh, it's...
Oops. No, it got really big. Okay, there we are.
Okay. Well, this is the main shop street, and the river is over toward the left.
Here.
Yeah, sort of. And that's where we would buy a lot of our groceries. Also the market, the fresh market over to the left. That's what some of the shops. I used to laugh. One of the teachers, one of the volunteers, he was a year ahead of us, taught at the school. But he used to say every time he saw these flags out, these Sarawak and Malaysia flags and stuff.
So this is the Malaysia flag over here with the sun. And
Yeah.
it looks like the U.S. flag almost, except instead of the stars, it has a sun.
Yeah.
And then the Sarawak flag is over here. It's the old Sarawak flag.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, most of these shops were owned by the Chinese, some by the Indians. But one of the guys used to joke that, yes, they all have their Chinese flags hiding up there, just in case they need them. Because this is a place that had been invaded by the Japanese during World War II, and they had a lot of horror stories from that. One of the families that I became very friendly with was the mother was Chinese and the father was British. And he had worked very hard with the underground kind of resistance people, radio contact.
Yeah, so it wasn't probably too long ago. It was about only 20 years ago. And you were there. You were there in '65.
Yeah,
so the war was about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All this stuff happened. So all that memory was probably pretty fresh.
Oh yeah. The people that saw it, yes.
Okay, and here's a store. This is the grocery store.
Line Hock Sing. That was where we got most of our non-perishable, like you would say. One of the reasons that we did was because he had a car, one of the 3 or 4 in the town, and he could deliver it to us. So if we needed like 20 pounds of rice or something, he could bring it out to us.
You probably needed 20 pounds of rice like every other day or something.
Well,
considering
no.
how much you were eating.
No. There were only, 4 of us, 3 of us eating it. But we did take some up. Well, sometime we took some upriver, but usually the people up in the longhouses wanted to eat their own rice. Wanted to share that. So we didn't do that for 2. But anything that was heavy or something.
And were bikes very common in this?
That was our way around.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to ride a bike on sand.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I had a few mishaps.
This is the inside a coffee shop. This is you.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the, besides like the picture of you bathing, this is one of the few pictures I see of you without your glasses on.
Oh, well, I had sunglasses on.
Yep, they're right here on the table. Yep. And this was the owner of the store back here? And here's,
he was.
And tell us who this.
Okay, she was actually from one of my longhouses, but she lived in this town. I don't know why she was living in the town, but she was our help to do our laundry. She did some cooking for us too. I don't think she really cleaned for us. We didn't have her do that.
What was her name?
But Helena. So when I left, I gave her my bicycle.
Okay.
Just that. Yeah. Didn't have one.
And you said the store owner would freeze your Coke for you?
He would. He put it in the freezer so that we would have a cold Coke if we came by. Coke was one of the few things that we knew was safe to drink because they knew where the plant was and everything. And they did tell us to wipe off the top of the bottle before we start drinking out of it. We knew that was one of the safe things we could go into.
Yep. So cheers. And this is it inside, I think, the coffee shop or some other shop?
No, this is a grocery shop.
A grocery shop.
Some of the tin goods and things.
Yeah. You purchase a lot of stuff from stores like this also? Or?
Oh, yes. We got our sardines and corned beef and stuff in here and whatever else they needed at the time. We would take our canned sardines and corned beef mostly. That's the 2 things I remember getting in cans. We'd take them with us for our trips so that we'd have some protein in our diet. with the right.
It's like paint jokes, but I doubt that it is.
No, it could be, but I
Like marine mint or something.
can't see the whole.
About the only thing I can read. Sunlight. I can read sunlight.
Yeah, and then you have spices and things.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's another market. There's a market in Bintulu, is that right?
Yes.
Oh.
It's the fresh market. Or the fishermen would bring in their catch, or the people who had vegetables to sell would bring them in.
So wait, there's a question about the Ayam brand. Now, did it say
Ayam is chicken.
Ayam is chicken, but it wasn't a brand. It was just.
Well, it was a brand. I have a towel with that brand.
Oh, okay. So
But it means chicken. I
yeah.
don't know.
Person who has spends a lot of time in Indonesia, so he's
Okay.
familiar with a lot of these areas. How much groceries cost? How much do you spend on groceries?
Well, I was lucky that I could, coordinate with the other people in our group, so we bought together the
Yeah.
food. We had the one refrigerator for the four of us, so we shared that, and we actually shared the cooking, the stove too. It was just easier to do that, and I don't remember how much things cost, but
Compared to how much you had a living stipend, I guess. So.
yeah, we had I think it was $300 Malay. It was like 100 US per month to live on. That was to pay for anything we needed.
Probably mostly food.
Mostly. Sometimes we would have to, as I say, pay for our transportation up the river, or stamps to mail things home.
Yeah, true. And mail things home, and then you get home, and then all the stuff would finally get there.
Yeah, it took a long time sometimes.
Okay, so yeah, we talked about a little bit about the fresh market. So you said that it's a very busy place on when the fish came in.
Yeah, late in the day, like 5 o'clock or something.
Every day that it
Mhm.
wasn't like a specific market day, or
No, they had fresh things every day because a lot of people did not have any refrigeration.
Matterhorn is a cigarette company.
Could be. There also was Shell gas over here. So
Was this the first photo? I don't know. I don't think this was the first photo that I told you a long time ago. I posted. There is one of them that I posted, asking people to see if they could guess what city it was. I think I posted this one also, maybe a black and white one. This is tell us what building this is.
this is the Chinese temple.
Hmm.
Chinese New Year was a very festive time. It wasn't like you'd see in Hong Kong or Singapore. They had the dragon parades and everything. It was a little more toned down.
Yeah.
And they put on puppet theaters sometimes.
I think this was the first. This was the first photo. They actually identified it. Someone guessed that this little flag over here might be a Sarawak flag, and I'm like, how in the world did they figure that out? It's like a little tiny little flag.
Yeah.
Man. It is a Sarawak flag. That's kind of surprising. Yeah. So, okay. So I think we'll talk a little bit later about the different cultures and religions that were in the area. So for now, we can move on a little. Okay. So yeah, we talked about the bananas. So here's some people selling you bananas. They're very, very happy trying to sell you their bananas.
I'm guessing this is along a river on a boat is what I'm guessing.
Yeah. And the bananas were delicious.
Yes, were very good.
Alas, you cannot get them in.
No, not the same flavors.
Not the same. Okay, so here's a picture of a longhouse. This is not in Bintulu.
No, it's in the first division, I think.
Yeah, this is near Kuching, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see some of the mountains in the background.
This was the first longhouse we were introduced to when they brought us to Sarawak as part of our in-country training, so to speak. They took us to see various things to acclimate us.
And this is, I think, a very big longhouse.
It is. It's linked together, I think, several groupings of doors.
And then these are so they have like, this one they have like a central outdoor area, it looks like.
Most of them, they do have an outdoor area. This one seems to be split, two sides.
Oh.
Most of them are, you have one side of the longhouse, and you do have the outside called ruai. They would dry things out there.
Mm-hmm. I can see some of that
clothes
stuff.
that they want, but also this is where they would dry their rice. They were primarily rice, I guess. I think if they were drying fish, they'd do that somewhere else.
It might smell.
Well, not just that, but I'd be tempting the predators to swoop down.
So were you sort of like, people didn't maybe see too many people, too many white people at this point in time? It was like there's a lot of people coming out to get a good glance at you.
Yeah, you're right. Some people hadn't seen a white person, but especially I guess maybe the children.
Yeah.
But yes, we were a novelty, but it was a group of us for this training kind of tour thing. So it was not just one person. But I do have a funny story to tell.
Sure.
The person who was in the town, the volunteer was in the town before us, who taught at the high school, the secondary school, was a black man from Alabama. And he was really very dark. He liked to tell the story. I don't know if it's true or not, but he really liked telling it. That when he went to the pool in Kuching, there was a swimming pool in Kuching, none in Bintulu. When he jumped into the water, everybody looked to see if the water was going to turn brown. So he liked to tell that story.
Oh, I'm guessing it didn't.
No, I don't think so.
And this is
he was much darker than they were.
This is a different longhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe also maybe in the Kuching area or somewhere else. Or
that could be along the river one of the longhouses that I went to.
What was the name of the river that you were on?
Oh, this is on Malaysia. No, I was on Sabah.
Sabah, okay. So this is on the Rajang River.
Yeah, so this is a different river. The mighty Rajang, it goes way up. It has rapids in it. Go far enough up.
So a lot of the longhouses were built along the riverside. So.
Most were, because they had to have access to water.
That was their only way.
And they had to get in and out of the longhouse.
To move, because there are no roads, so your only transportation was on the river, right? Mm-hmm. So it's between the river and the jungle.
And some of the access to get up into these longhouses, you can kind of see them a little bit.
Yeah,
they were not stairs. No, I mean just to get into the yourself. Okay. They didn't always have stairs. They had just a notched log, probably about 12 to 14 inches in diameter, I guess. And you'd have to learn how to climb up that.
Oh, did you learn?
I had to a few times. I had to get up. If you don't want to fall in the mud, you learn. Someone else would usually take my things up for me.
Oh, okay.
It was just me.
And here's inside. I think this is a longhouse in Bintulu.
Yes, this is the longhouse that.
Longhouse Ruai. This is the Ruai, that area that you were talking about.
Well, this is the inside Ruai.
Okay.
They had it inside, and the outside would be over to the right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what did they do in this area?
Anything you can imagine, really. They could cook if they wanted to bring their stuff out here, but they usually cooked in their rooms. The women would sit out here making things, weaving maybe.
So most of the men at this point that you took are probably out working.
Yes, and sometimes the women are as well. When it's the planting season, the loghouse is quite empty, other than the older people who don't go out and children too young for school.
Okay. Okay. So I think we're going to move on from the longhouse. I don't think we have any more longhouse pictures. We're going to continue to boats. So tell what's going on in this picture. What is this?
This one's a regatta they had. And they did these in various places, different times of the year. This one was, I'm pretty sure, in Bintulu, when we had the people come down for the meeting where we saw them all congregated before. Mm-hmm. It was in conjunction with a regatta that was planned. And they had each longhouse or whoever wanted to could have a team of people to enter into this race.
Yeah. There's, I think I have this as the winners. These were the winners of that regatta race.
I don't remember what longhouse they're from.
Yeah. So was this a big event in the?
Oh, sure.
I think we have the next picture. We have. Oh no, this is another big event picture that you have. Tell us what's going on in this picture.
This is Malaysia Day, the anniversary of when Malaysia was actually formed. And the chief minister was, I guess, visiting various towns.
This was like the first or second anniversary, right? Or
something like that. Yeah, it wasn't very long we got there. And these are all the school children dressed in their school uniforms. They had some games and things they played afterward. And I think they had some treats to offer and cool drinks and stuff of that sort. So
yeah,
there was a celebration for them.
Yeah, apparently you had the chief minister of Sarawak.
Yes. He came to visit. That's why everybody's lined up. He's going to come through from the river.
And here's the old Sarawak flag over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's different nowadays. Here's some Malaysia flag, or not quite the Malaysia flag. Malaysia flag looks sort of like the Malaysia. I guess you have the German flag. I don't know.
I don't know what those things.
And then this is a talent show,
Yes, this was at another event. A talent show with music and dancing.
So you have one girl here playing gongs, right?
Yes.
And then there's another drums.
Mm-hmm.
What other instruments were common?
They had a horn made out of gourd. I have one of those.
Oh, do you?
You see it?
Oh no, I think it looks sort of like a bagpipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really weird
not
looking
really,
thing.
But not really a bagpipe, but anyway.
There's no bag. It's a bagpipe without a bag.
Those are the things I remember. Mostly it's the gongs that they use more than anything.
Any flutes?
Not that I know about. Like I say, it was mostly the gongs. That's whenever they at the longhouse, if they ever had any music, it was the gongs.
Any stringed instruments? Don't remember any. And here's a woman who's dancing. So this is at some festival.
Well, it's probably part of the talent show.
Part of the talent show,
yeah.
Okay.
And she's doing what they call a najat, the Iban dance. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the person is in a trance when they do this dance. She's very dressed up. They're not always dressed up to do it.
Yeah, I really like this picture. Heard it before. And you can notice, we'll see this a little bit more here, but she has the extended earlobes.
Mm-hmm.
Weights on those. It's very common there.
Mm-hmm.
See in our picture.
This is probably in Marudi. We went to the regatta in Marudi once with one of our agricultural workers who was from there. Okay. And that's what it probably is, because the earrings are the clue. She's probably not an Iban. She's probably a Kayan or a Kenyan. Okay. And a lot of different tribes up there. Nuns sometimes, but the tribes don't really come down very much. I should drink some water.
Yeah. So
over here.
And there's a lot of. It looks like there's a lot of white people here, which is very surprising. These look like white people. So what's going on here? No, do you remember?
I don't remember. Maybe some of the people higher up in the agriculture department or something. Could be other tourists.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be tourists.
Then here's a man on the same stage. Looks like.
Yeah, and he's doing basically the same dance, but the male version of it. It's a imitation of the hunt.
Oh, okay.
Again, they always look like they're in a trance, and
Unfortunately, the camera
It's a slow motion.
focused on the background and not the guys. They weren't really good.
It's a very slow motion dance.
Okay, and then tell us what this is. What's going on here?
This is an offering to the spirits. If they wanted, for instance, a good harvest, they would put this out before they go to plant. If some event was supposed to happen, they would put it out. Just different occasions. They would put out offerings to the spirits.
So what did you? I think you had in this that this was popcorn or something.
That's what. Yeah, I think so.
And then here it looks like feathers and some eggs.
Yeah.
And you would just hang them out
outside the longhouse.
Okay, and then I think I don't know if they're watching the regatta or.
Yes,
they are. Good. So these are people watching the regatta, and they're not Iban.
No, these you can tell by the earrings they have. They're either Kenyan or Kayan. They start. I don't see a baby here with one. The little girls, they will put them in their ears. So
yeah, you see this little girl has. This is not very common anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Practice has sort of died out. Well, to be fair, it's not
same as. No, it was adapted by the Westerners now, but anyway.
Yeah, that's sort of true.
Some forms of it, but anyway.
It also looks like they're wearing Western clothes, which so it's a.
That's not really.
No, not really. Okay.
It's not really a Western.
Now this boy does. Looks like he has color on his shirt.
Yeah, well this woman the kids
does.
but perhaps he's probably a school child.
Okay.
And the school children had uniforms they wore.
Okay.
But they had shirts, but it's not really a Western kind of thing. So I don't have a way to describe it, but they had their long skirts that they wore, their sarongs. Probably more of a indigenous kind of design.
And did they often carry the children on their backs like this? Was this common?
On their back or on their front, either one. Depended on which tribe or group it was. And these hats are a lot of times is spent on doing the beating and.
Yeah, you have some hats.
I do, and I hung them up on my wall now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Again, these are sort of things that we'd love to show, but we can't because Wisconsin hats are in New Jersey.
Yes, it does provide shade. That's a big reason for it.
Yeah.
Rain, I don't know that I would want to be wearing it in the rain. I'd probably ruin it.
Hey, you figured out how to read. You figured out how to read chat.
I saw some.
Good job. I'm impressed.
My kids are always teaching me new things. Gotta keep up with the technology.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a wedding, but this is not a traditional Iban wedding.
No, this is not an Iban wedding. This is a Malay wedding. When the Malays were Muslim, after the wedding they would entertain people to come to the home. I think they did it 2 or 3 nights in a row or something. So they would sit so guests could come and congratulate them. Mm-hmm. We went one night to do that. This man happens to be a man that we worked with in the agricultural department.
Okay. Yeah, and then speaking of traditional weddings, tell us what you're wearing here. The suit of armor that you're wearing.
Well, these are parts of what an Iban girl might wear for her wedding. Actually, this is a lot. These different elements came from a lot of different people. So you probably would not see one bride with all of this on at the same time. But these girls wanted to decorate me up. One is holding the headdress on because it was very heavy.
Yeah. It's a solid metal, right?
But I do see from videos that my friends post about when they have like a Miss Malaysia or Miss Bintulu, Miss this, Miss that. When they have that kind of, the women do dress up in a lot of this kind of thing. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So you have like, it looks like you're wearing some necklaces here.
yeah,
These are beads or?
yes, those
Okay.
are
You have
beads.
like metal bracelets all up and down your arm, is that right?
Yeah.
And you have this suit of armor. I don't know what. Looks like
Hey,
a suit of armor.
that's some families' jewels.
Yeah, and then you have a skirt or something
Yeah,
with also
a
with more
sarong, right?
more armor, and
Right.
then you have this very heavy gown, which
Mm.
have a sneaky can back here helping hold it up.
Yes, there was somebody back
Someone
there helping.
behind you helping holding that
Yes.
up. So yes,
There
yes.
was
Altogether, this was probably, I don't know, what, 50 pounds, 60
I don't
pounds.
know. I didn't really move very far.
Yeah, really heavy, really heavy.
Move very far.
Okay, so this is so tell us what story is behind this.
Okay, one of the 4-H projects we did with the girls and the women was embroidery kind of thing, sewing or embroidery too. And this person has taken their Ebon designs. They learned cross stitch, how to do that.
You taught them how to do that.
Yeah, and we gave them, well, helped them buy, I guess, the cloth. The things that we did there, we did not provide everything for the people. They had to be able to afford it themselves so that you knew that they were really interested in doing whatever it was, whether it was planting something
Mm-hmm.
or whether it was, we had a chicken project toward the end. If they wanted to participate in that, they had to show us they had the money to buy the food for the chicken, they had to build a place for the chicken, and we had to know that they were going to be able to continue doing that before we would help them get the chickens. And so any projects we did, they had to have either the material available or be able to afford to purchase it. So these are some traditional Ebon designs
Yeah.
that you would find probably with not as many colors. Colors would be different on their blankets and other things that they make. These are some of their traditional designs that they put into embroidery.
Okay. So yeah, so this is a woman that you told us earlier on.
My mother away from home.
Yeah. What is she doing?
She's stripping the palm leaves to be able to make a mat basket or something. And sometimes they would do this to be able to make cigarettes. They made their own cigarettes.
Yeah. Cigarettes.
I don't think she smokes, though.
Was smoking very common? Probably.
Yeah, and some people.
I think that might have been the.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. There's no.
Oh, okay.
We got to the end of the pictures. We did. Oh wait, no, it took an hour.
Okay.
So this is, yeah. So I have no more. I have no more slides prepared. We could talk about a few more things if you have any other topics you want to talk about. So maybe you can talk about what your experience is, how like this changed, how your experience in the Peace Corps, how that sort of changed your worldview, if it changed your people that were interested.
Well, there were a couple of different things. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I got home, so that was one of the things we had to figure out while we were over there. Glenn and Stan were going back to farms. They knew pretty much what they were doing. I knew I had to go back to more school if I wanted to do something with my education. And the three of us talked a lot about this, and I decided after talking to them and some of the people they were in contact with back in the US that I would go on to graduate school for social work because that would allow me a lot of different options for doing things with people. That's what I did there.
And did one of them convince you to go to Nebraska? Is that why you wound up there?
Well, yeah. The guy from Nebraska had a cousin who lived in St. Louis, actually, and they were two cousins. One of them was a cousin married to a person. But anyway, they were both social workers, and he got me in contact with them. They were in St. Louis, so I went to see the school there. I had to do all my applications before I got back be able to go in the fall. So I was applying for, grants and things at the same time. And I applied, of course, where I lived in Louisville. And, Stan says, well, apply to Nebraska too, which I did. And I wound up being able to get a grant for either Nebraska or Louisville.
Okay, falling out of the camera.
Falling out of the camera, oh dear. And so anyway, I decided, well, I went to the U of L before. I think I'll go somewhere different. So I went to Nebraska. I decided while I was there, I wasn't going to stay there because the weather was horrendous. Well, I didn't like it. It had nice days, but the wind was constant, and I didn't like it. So that's how I wound up.
Not as nice
there.
as Wisconsin.
Well, I've only been here a few days. But so far, it's been very nice. It's not as windy as Nebraska. It's a nice breeze.
So, so what was your favorite memory while you were there?
My favorite? There's too many.
Okay, well, just pick one.
Yeah.
Pick two.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about that. I don't know. I had a note. Oh, there was something else you mentioned a minute ago. Worldview and stuff. I guess not too long after I got there, I had the attitude that maybe one of these children would benefit from being adopted and taken back with me. As I stayed longer, I realized that children were really valued. They may not have all the material things that you have, now they do, but then they didn't, that we value here. But they had so much love. One instance is this lady here had a little boy. Her husband's brother lived next door, next room, and he and his wife weren't able to have any children. So when she had the third child, the other family adopted him. So he really had two homes. He was back and forth all the time between the two. And he knows who his parents are because I now am in contact with him. But to me, that was just a very loving kind of thing to see.
Yeah.
And
that's not very nice.
I remember some of the times of going with the girls upriver with these tiny little streams to forage for vegetables and things. They knew what they wanted was. And it was really like maybe 4 foot wide, the stream. It was very, very narrow. And they were growing, of course. And I kept thinking because we knew that just across the South China Sea, the Vietnam War was going on. And when I went up and deep into the jungle, I would think, and we have people trying to fight a war and you can't see past the next tree. It was really made me aware of what the jungle really was like. But they were quite at home in it. They knew what was safe to do and what wasn't. I didn't venture out by myself.
People are curious.
Okay, tell me when you get back to the picture that I can't take the flipping through.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said we might not have time. We don't have the slides to go. But where did you go after you left Malaysia? So tell us first of all how the plane tickets work, because that's something that you told me once that I was.
You buy for coming home.
Yeah.
You buy a ticket for a specific destination. As volunteers, we were allowed a certain amount of miles, which meant we were expected to go home via the Pacific Ocean. Plus that. Yeah. So you could add a little more to that and go through Europe and, the rest, Asia and Europe. So we did that. In fact, this is the girl that I travel with then as well as now. So we bought our ticket and we put as many places on it as we could. that didn't exceed the mileage we were allowed. And as we went through the trip, we had to reduce some of them because we were running out of money.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to all the places we put on there. But it was
So where's some of the places you went?
Well, we started off going back to Malaya, to Penang area, and back to Thailand. We had been there before on a circle trip on one of our leave times, but we went to Bangkok and took some side trips. We went into Cambodia and we went into Laos.
You saw Angkor Wat.
Angkor Wat.
You went to Vientiane, right?
Yes, that was pretty much as far as you could go because of the war going on. And I think we stayed in someplace that was okay by the U.S. The U.S. had U.S. aid there and stuff. And we talked about. We went to India.
What city?
We flew into Delhi, and we took a train to Allahabad, where the three rivers meet. Basically, we went there because one of our Peace Corps friends had relatives who were missionaries there, and they could show us around and us about that area. We also took another train to Agra to see the Taj Mahal. I don't remember the sequence. I have to go back all the time to my notes to remember. We also went to Iran, Iraq.
Went to Iran. So did you go to
Tehran, yeah.
Yeah, of course it was different back then.
Oh yeah, it was different. Still wasn't the best place to be, but
before the Islamic Revolution.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Iran.
Went to
Egypt. We went down to Cairo and took a boat down to see the Abu Simbel. They were moving the Aswan Dam. And Jordan, Greece, Rome, Italy. Most of these places we did not
get out of the city. We went to Berlin also. We
went to Germany. We
Checkpoint Charlie.
Stayed quite a few days in Frankfurt waiting for some more money to get wired to us. But Jean had family there that we visited as well. That's one of the reasons we went there. And we took a train from Frankfurt into Berlin, which was, it was like you were traveling through East Germany to get to Berlin. And they were checking the train all the time to make sure everybody was okay to be on there.
Yeah.
And then we did walk across Checkpoint Charlie into East Berlin. Experience to see what it was like over there. It was quite dismal at that time.
Yeah. Was it 66 or something?
It was 67.
67.
We were in Jerusalem. It was part of Jordan at that time. And
before the 67 war.
Yeah, just a couple of months before. And people were telling us, hey, tanks are lining up. But of course we didn't know that much about the local news and what was happening and everything. We were just trying to see what all we could see. And let's see, we did not go to France. Again, we were running out of money. Good choice. We were running out of money. We went to London, where she had some friends from somewhere that lived in London, and we could stay with them. So that helped out there. We didn't have to pay for a hotel. So we were able to see a few things. We did not stay there very long. And they took us around to see some of the countryside. So
some of these places you have slides, but a lot of the slides quality isn't so great on them.
Yeah, my camera wasn't working right, and I didn't know it because I was mailing my film home for my families to get processed. Or I was mailing it to get processed and then delivered to them. So I didn't know for a while that my camera wasn't working. The light meter was off.
Yeah, definitely didn't make it to Denmark.
No, we did not get to.
When you got back, was there anything that was weird, strange after living? You had to readapt to.
Yeah, everybody moving so fast.
The lifestyle was a little slower there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Things are really moving
it's like
fast.
moving from Boston to
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. I didn't live in Boston.
Jersey to Madison.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot more frantic.
Yeah, time is money.
Yeah.
Hey, sister's here also. Do you have any questions? Okay.
It was a wonderful experience. I have not gone back, and I know people keep telling me. I do have contact with quite a few children of the people that I was in the longhouses with, and a few of the people themselves, so many, and they say, when are you coming back? And truthfully, from the videos and pictures and stuff that they show and share, I'd rather remember it the way I experienced it, because it was just a special time. And the people were very warm-hearted, very friendly.
Maybe one day I'll go back for you.
Well, you'll go to it's different than what I was in. You won't find the same thing. There's a mall where my house was.
Yeah.
There's a big hotel near the beach that we were on. It's just all different. There was nothing on the beach. There was trees and sand. That's it.
Now it's everyone's favorite city.
How about that? The amazing thing, another thing that amazes me too, is these kids you saw in the slides had no idea, or very little idea, about the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And geography, etc. Now you find, like, that little boy who was adopted. He worked, I think, for Shell or one of the other petroleum companies. I don't know. He may be retired now. I'm not sure. But he was back and forth between Sarawak and Peru for many years. Now he is settled in Peru. He lives there. His sister, who married the Australian guy, they spent a number of years in Africa. He was working on water projects there. She actually has traveled quite a lot. The oldest brother, he has also traveled. I don't remember all places and why, but again, it was with his work. I think he lives in Kuching.
Okay, so I think we'll start wrapping things up here. So
Yeah.
much for agreeing to do this with me. I had a great time. This was a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this for a long, long time.
Okay. Something I had not thought of.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording